Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Courtney.
And it has been a hell of a week.
That's putting it mildly, but yes.
I got called into work last minute on Monday, and then was there till 11 for absolutely no reason. I don't think they did anything on the show.
What show are they doing right now?
They're teching To Kill a Mockingbird. But like the truck with the set isn't even here yet. So I don't know what they've been doing for the last week.
Right. That feels like an important piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. So there's that. And then Tuesday, I feel like I also didn't sleep on Tuesday, but I don't remember. Oh, Tuesday, my mom had a meeting. So I was cooking dinner with my dad and then like trying to get some grading done. And then Wednesday, I told my boss that my report cards weren't going to be done on time, and she yelled at me and talked to me like I was her child, which was absolutely fair and appropriate, but made me cry and made me feel guilty. And so I stayed up till 2:00 in the morning to finish them.
Yes, I recall conversing with you at 1:30 in the morning.
And then I worked the next night.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a really good thing it's warm and sunny today, because otherwise I wouldn't be a person.
Well, I already missed the snow, but I also had a long week. It wasn't terrible. It was okay. Monday night, my boss last minute gave me tickets to go see Mark McKillop, who's a Broadway actor. He was doing a duets performance at Birdland Jazz Club, and we had like a table up front. And so my friend Noelle went with me, and we got like a bottle of wine and some appetizers and just had the best time. And then we ended up going to this piano bar down the way and closing it out. So I didn't get home till after 2 a.m., which was the worst choice of my entire life based on how the rest of my week went. But it was a very fun night, and I knew I would regret it. And I did, but I didn't, because I had a great time. And then I worked Tuesday until midnight, and then Wednesday until 12:30. And then yesterday was St. Patrick's Day, which is a big deal when you work in an Irish bar, as you can imagine.
A little bit.
So I did get free dinner, which was nice. I had bangers and mash. It was delicious.
Sounds wonderful.
Otherwise, I did not get off until 1:30, and people were nice enough, but they just wouldn't go home. Which meant I couldn't go home. I did make this table of Irish people very angry because they drank for 6 hours and had an $800 bill, and then were mad that they had an $800 bill. I was like, you came to a Times Square bar,
yeah,
and drank for 6 hours and ate dinner for 4 adults and 4 children.
No, like, absolutely should have been an $800 bill.
Yeah.
So the 8th graders at my school have started deciding that they are shipping teachers together. Okay. Particularly me and my best friend, who is a secretary at the school. And he and I went out Friday night, and my students were like, oh, you have a date. And I was like, guys, shut up, leave us alone. Then Monday morning, they come in and they immediately were like, oh, how was your date with Miss Lodick, to him? And he comes to me and he's like, what was that? I was like, okay, this is how we fix things. So I pretended to get fired and told them that it was their fault and that he and I had both been fired, and that this is what the consequences of their rumors are. And then I just left them alone for like 15 minutes to sit in silence with the weight of their actions. And then I came back in and I was like, okay, so not fired, but like, how do you feel right now? This is what happens in the real world. Like, these are the consequences. Actions have repercussions.
Well, I guess that's good.
It was beautiful. Beautiful.
These poor children.
My one of my favorites immediately goes, I'm gonna tell my therapist about this. It's like there.
Poor child. Poor child.
Oops.
I did make a friend at St. Patrick's Day.
What did you?
I did. I don't know his name, but his other friend, who I'm also friends with now, her name is Mel. She's great. Love her.
Good.
But I was walking around. I've been watching these videos my aunt's been sending me. I forgot the guy's name, but one of his like personalities he does is Nicole, and he does like all server stuff. And she's just like, I don't care. She's like, I lie to the customers. I blame it on other people and pretend like it wasn't my fault. And I was just like, I lie all the time. Like if I forget to put in food, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. The kitchen lost your ticket. And so yesterday I was like sitting there and she like doesn't care about anything in the videos. And so one of the girls, I was the last person to clock in for St. Patrick's Day. No one told me what was going on. I was still trying to figure out if we had reservations. And one of the girls who'd been there since noon, I got there at 5, walked up to me and she was like, do we have any reservations at 7:03? And I just looked at her and I just like shrugged. I was like, I don't know. Why would I know that? Like, I have no idea what's happening. I just walked in the door.
Right.
And this guy saw me do it and he burst out laughing. And then he like grabbed me and he was like, you were so funny. He was like, I love how you're just like, I don't care. I don't know what's going on and I don't care. And I was like, I don't know what they want from me. They ask me all these questions and I have no answers to them. And then I ended up chatting with that table. There was 3 of them for like, they were really fun. But
Sounds great.
that was nice.
Also for our viewers, we are having internet issues today. So if this video quality is absolute garbage, I apologize. We can't figure out whose end the internet problem is on, and we don't have time.
We do not. Because today is Friday, and this comes out on Sunday.
Correct.
And we both work I work tomorrow, and NK works the next 2 days.
Yeah, so
This is it.
So, since our lives are shit shows, we're just going to get right into a different shit show. Stargate. Just kidding. It wasn't a shit show. It just seemed like a really good segue.
That would have been a really good segue for Hemlock Grove.
It would have. But Stargate SG1, less of a shit show.
Which I'm very pleased.
Yeah. So we are on season 1, episode 2, called The Enemy Within. It aired on August 1st, 1997. The number 1 song was still I'll Be Missing You, and the number 1 movie was still Air Force One. It was rated 7.6 stars, so less than last week, which I think is fair.
I think it's fair because last week set up everything.
Yes. This week, mostly, I think it's fair because the lighting in this episode is terrible. Tragic. And I don't know if that's a 1997 thing or just this show, but like the lighting is tragic.
Might have been a 1997 thing.
Yeah. It was directed by Dennis Barry. He directed 33 things, and I recognized exactly 0 of them. Most of them are French. And it was written by Brad Wright, who wrote the first episode.
Which is good. That feels right. Yeah. You see what I did there?
The blurb says, doctors discover a Goa'uld larvae has attached itself to Kowalski's brain, and the soldier must undergo a risky operation.
Kowalski.
Now, here's the thing. When you have a show and there's a character that is only in 2 episodes, most of the time, you completely forget they exist. I don't know the future of the show in 100% detail because it's been so long since I watched it, but I do know that Kowalski is one of the characters that I vividly remember everything about, which means that there's more to this story.
Excellent. Excellent.
Just to be clear, because I was like, I don't remember it happening this early. And my mom just goes, yeah, it's episode 2. If you remember it, it's clearly bigger. And I go, you're right. You're right.
Because I definitely like the way they set this up. I was like, this is one of my comments I had later on, but I can talk about it now. I was like, they only have Kowalski in 2 episodes. He was in the movie a pretty relatively big part.
Yeah.
Based on all the characters. And then he was a really big part in the first and second episode of the first season. And then I was like, and then we never see him again? Is that how that goes? That's terrible writing. Like, so I'm glad to know that that's not the end of the story.
I mean, he is dead. Like, that's
Yes. But if we're going to continue to discuss about him or
yes.
him,
And
okay.
to be fair, most of it will just be discussion because it's part of that thing where you have the main character who hates everything but really doesn't hate everything, and you have things that tragically affect them that they then have to deal with. And you know, Jack is rough and angry and has no feelings, but he fucking loved Kowalski. So
see, and I'm perfectly fine with that kind of storyline. I was concerned if that was the end of it because that was our only beginning also. So
yeah,
but it's fine.
So we start the episode with SG teams 1 and 2 getting briefed about who knows something, when all of a sudden there is an unknown inbound traveler. And it is some Goa'uld attacking the Stargate, which has apparently been happening a lot.
Yes. Yes.
And so they have this titanium iris that they put up that will stop anything from actually getting through the Stargate. And we're just on attack. We're just on defense mode right now. But they're trying to go to some of the other planets that they have discovered have Stargates in order to find things, people, gold, that fun stuff.
Excellent explanation.
No, I mean, because they don't actually know what they're looking for. 100%.
I know. You just sounded very enthusiastic about.
Because I just while saying this, remembered that the reason I have so few notes is because a bunch of times I stopped, paused the show, turned to talk to my mom, had full conversations about important details I needed to mention while discussing the show, didn't write them down because I thought I was recording
that night,
and then now I'm talking about the episode, I'm like processing everything that I need to make sure I mention.
Yes, again, full disclosure, we were supposed to record this 5 days ago. And we didn't. So
yeah.
I'm so sorry. There's noise happening right now.
Honestly, other than that last bark of Sadie's, I heard none of it. So
perfect. Because there's people outside the door, and that's why she's barking. It's a whole thing.
So they're discussing what's going on with the Stargate, and Kowalski is like, why don't we just, I don't know, let him in?
Yeah.
Let's fight it out.
Not suspicious at all.
And he goes, part of me wants to just let them in. And my mom just goes, which part? Because fun fact, we know he is inhabited.
Yes. Which we did learn.
Yeah, I don't know what the correct term is for
host. He's hosting.
He's a host, but like in the verb term, I don't know what the correct verbiage would be. But hosting sounds like you're throwing a party.
Right. And it is for the Goa'uld, just not for the host. Which sometimes is the case when you're throwing a dinner party.
True. We learned though that there's also fail safes in the system that if anything were to ever break through the titanium iris, which is supposed to be like indestructible, there's an automatic failsafe that will blow up the entire mountain.
Yes. Good times.
That's fun. Then we are Jack is talking to General Hammond, and we find out that Teal'c's request to join the team has been denied because the US government is like, hello, alien living on our planet. Let's run tests on you. Because, of course, the US government said that.
That is a very common theme in real and fake life. So,
Right.
Fine.
I do appreciate that the show is like pro-military and still somehow anti-US government. Like,
I do enjoy that. I do enjoy that because I feel that in my bones.
same.
So, let's make that very clear. That's how I also feel.
So then Jack goes to talk to Teal'c about this situation. And we find out that all the refugees from episode 1 are now back safely on their planet.
We're going to make it through this episode. Don't worry, guys.
And Teal'c is like, am I a prisoner here? And Jack's like, oh, yeah. And he's like, that's cool. I get it.
I know. I love how like straightforward they're like.
And no, Teal'c's the Teal'c is very much like, this is life. Guess that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah. But also, like, I think if it came down to it, like, he could probably take anyone. So, like, if they were going too far, he could stop it.
Oh, absolutely. But he also is like, he's like rational enough to be like, I get it. I'm not from this planet. And now I am here. And you guys don't understand me. And I get it. You got to figure
he's
it
like,
out.
No, don't trust me. And I was like, I trust him with my life. I've known him for like a week and I trust him.
Yeah. And Jack does too. Jack's like, no, I saw you have an opportunity to not be a good guy with no repercussions, and you chose to be a good guy anyway. So, like, I trust you, but I'm the only one who saw that. So you got to give other people time. And Teal'c's like, fair, dude.
Yeah.
And Teal'c, it says that he respects O'Neill. Like, Teal'c, Jack is the person that he is able to have these conversations with because he's like, I also saw what you're capable of.
Right.
And
friends.
It's beautiful.
Right.
While this is going on, we go back after this happens, we go back to the briefing room and they're trying to get stuff started for the mission. And we find out that Kowalski has like a killer migraine. So he goes to the doctor.
And
then he promptly kills the doctor.
Yes. Yes.
Because why not?
Yes.
To which my mom was like, what did he do with the body? Fun fact, they did answer that question, but it was a legitimate question.
I had a question at this point also.
Yeah.
Where exactly is the gold living in him? Because we know they're supposed to live in the stomach, but
they're not. Sorry. This is one of the things that I made a note about because I had a sudden realization, and I have a note about it much later.
Yeah.
The woman who had it in her stomach before it went into Sharae was also a Jaffa.
So only the Jaffa have it living in their
Jaffa
stomach?
keep it in their stomach as like a incubator for the larva to grow. The spinal cord and the nervous system is where the Goa'uld has to actually live once it's hosting.
So that's why it went through her back instead of through.
Correct.
So it's living in his brain and spinal cord.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everything makes sense again.
Yes. No, that was one of the things that I was like, make sure to say this to Courtney.
Yes, because I have questions.
Yes. No, and that makes sense now. Like, again, been probably a decade since I've seen any of this show. So like that all checks out. The Jaffa, the reason they're not able to communicate, the reason like Teal'c doesn't know what the brain of his Goa'uld is because it's not connected to his nervous system at all.
Gotcha, because that was my other question I like mentioned earlier. I was like, how is he so in control and Kowalski's not? But it makes sense that he's an incubator, not the person that it's being taken over by him.
Right. Then we go back to the briefing room where Daniel looks out the window and is like, hey, how the fuck did Kowalski get into the gate room?
Yes.
And they go down to talk to him. And Kowalski's like, how the fuck did I get into the gate room?
No, I know.
So we know that he is going in and out of conscious control of his body.
And I will say this is not this specifically, but this is one of the effects that is, I understand why it's not as good as it could be. But like when his eyes change, it just feels a little off to me. It feels like a older effect. And I like older than the 90s. Not like, I don't know if that is actually true or not.
Okay, but to be fair, this is older than the Scorpion King.
Guess what? I've never watched the Scorpion King.
Okay, which is absolutely fair, but like you've never seen how bad The Rock looked in the Scorpion King as the Scorpion King. Oh my God. It is honestly the most tragic thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yep, and I can tell you, yeah, but these are different things. Like just because that was bad doesn't mean this had to be bad.
Yeah, no, sorry. It was in the Mummy Returns. He as the Scorpion King, but in the Mummy Returns.
I'm seeing him as CGI.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not great.
No, it's so bad. So.
But I mean, Kowalski looked normal. It was just the eyes, the way they did it. I just didn't. I wanted something different. Maybe I wanted them to turn red, or maybe I wanted them to light up differently. I don't know. I'm just being nitpicky.
Okay. Because I was like, the effect is not great, but it's also not terrible.
No, it wasn't like the most terrible thing I've seen. It was just one of the first things that came to me, and I was like, this isn't great. Whereas other things were pretty done. Well,
yeah. Colonel Kennedy, we meet next, and he is a piece of shit.
Hate that guy.
So Colonel Kennedy is interviewing Teal'c, and Jack just shows up and is like, hey, I'm going to be here now. Right. Yes. But this interview is kind of hella important for the series. Like, hella important. And I don't know if you picked up on all of what it said without saying anything.
So I learned about the Tari and the Jaffa and how the Jaffa were hosts. And then I got a little distracted because I said Alan Ration looks Ration. I don't know. Looks like the dad from Modern Family.
Fair. Not the same person, but.
Oh, well, no, of course not. He's older than the dad in Modern Family is. Yeah. But he looked like him. And so I got a little distracted by that.
Okay. Well, this is mad important. So do you know what they said about the Towery?
I put the Towery are new and they were being used as slaves.
So yes, so the Tauri were being used as slave. Tauri not new.
No, they're new to us.
But they're not. Haha. um, Tauri is the Goa'uld word for human. Yeah,
Oh, I missed
and
that.
that's So because they never say it straight out, but they have like conversations around it. So they're talking about the original Stargate that they found in Egypt and the people that fled to Abydos. And basically, what we learn in this moment is that every single planet that has a Stargate is a slave planet that the Goa'uld have taken humans to. So 90% of the races that we meet are actually human, but culturally different from living on different planets. So the Jaffa are human-ish.
Oh, okay.
Ish being because they've spent so long being on a different planet, different culture, different existence that there's things that are different, but yes, they are human-ish, which also answers my biggest problem from the original episode. If all of the Stargates are colonized planets, they all have to have human appropriate atmospheres. So they don't have to check the atmosphere. I don't know. Okay. I was saying that we don't have to have like weird, crazy CGI or prosthetics or anything because all of the aliens are actually humans.
Which is smart, especially when you know you don't have a lot to work with. Like,
right. It solves a technical issue while also still being like incredibly storyline intriguing because like humans are everywhere. How did they get there? How did this happen? How did their cultures develop like differently than ours? We find out that Daniel hasn't been sleeping because he's all stressed out about Sharae. And Sam is like, just try to go to sleep. So he does. And he finds a dead body in his bunk.
Yep. Poor Daniel. It's like the one. Ugh. I can't.
Then we go back to the med bay because they took Kowalski because of his weird blackouts, and the other surgeon is there. And they see that his MRI shows the Goa'uld has wrapped itself around his spinal cord. His response is to go ape and start attacking literally everyone.
Right. Because the Goa'uld's like, you now know, now I can kill everyone.
Apparently. But then, of course, he unblacks out again. And we find out from Teal'c that the reason Kowalski still has any control of his brain is because the Goa'uld is an infant that like panic hid inside of him and wasn't actually ready to take over a body.
Yes.
Just kind of weird. But
it is. I mean, but that is kind of what it looked like. It looked like he panicked and jumped into his body. So
right. They find out that they can do a surgery to remove it from his spinal cord, but the surgery might kill him.
Right.
And then we get to the scene that this show makes me angry. Not because it did anything wrong.
Right.
But also, in a way, the show is tackling racism in a way that people were not really prepared or capable of understanding at that time. Because if you'll notice, Teal'c is the only person of color in that cast. So in the scene, when angry military asshole man Colonel Kennedy just assumes that the Goa'uld in Kowalski's brain is Teal'c's and like makes him undress. I was like,
I know.
so he's like, show me your gold. And Teal'c's like, still right fucking here. Didn't go anywhere.
Yeah. Ugh, I hate the way they look. But you are at least getting your political show you wanted. So
Fuck the government.
you don't mean it. Please don't take us off the air.
I mean it. I don't care. I paid $60 in gas yesterday.
I don't mean it. I'm an attorney. Please do not disparage me. I think the law's great.
You're an attorney. Your basic life goal is to fuck the government. Like, that's what attorneys do.
We also believe in the justice system.
No. You can believe in the Constitution and the justice system and still want to fuck the government because the government doesn't believe in that.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
So then they're like, well, we've got Kowalski like bound, and we know that the Goa'uld inside of him, we're gonna do surgery and we're gonna kill it. And Teal'c's like, not a good idea. Let me talk to him.
I also want to talk about how Ferretti's not in this episode because him and Kowalski were like besties, and he was there when Kowalski first went to the hospital, and now it's like we're just like, oh, just kidding, we're gonna have Colonel O'Neill be the new bestie that's just gonna slide in and take this role.
Yeah, well, so Kowalski and Ferretti and O'Neill were always like a trio pre the show, like in the movie and like everything, like they're like a trio.
Yeah.
But also the cast is already so big that they were like,
you don't need you anymore.
But like in the first episode, Kowalski is the one who stays by Ferretti's side. Ferretti is clearly like Kowalski's underling.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the same dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So it's kind of the same dynamic then using Colonel O'Neill and Kowalski as it was using Kowalski and Ferretti.
Correct.
Okay, I follow. That makes a little more sense.
Plus,
I just feel like that was a choice to be like, here is your one episode with Ferretti, and
yeah,
not him anymore.
True. And the other thing with like military shows is that oftentimes you have like people that come in and out that like seem like they should have more of an impact, and then they don't. But I don't know.
Yeah.
So Teal'c goes to talk to the Goa'uld, and the Goa'uld is like, fuck this traitor. I want nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
Which only makes sense because of an important detail we learned earlier that I forgot to mention, and that is that the Goa'uld have a collective memory. So every Goa'uld has the memory of every Goa'uld.
I also missed that somehow.
Yeah, it was in the same scene with the Tauri where they were talking about like how the Goa'uld are born, and they
very distracted by the guy looking like Dad from Modern Family. I'm so sorry.
But so they have like a collective memory. So every Goa'uld has all of the collective knowledge and memories of every other part of their species. So it's like a telepathic link. So even though this Goa'uld doesn't know Teal'c from Adam, he does.
So do they form from like, this may be an off-wall question, do they form from like, here's a central source and then Goa'uld like come out and become Goa'uld? Or is it like they have babies and they're just all connected somehow?
Yeah, it's more like just having babies with a telepathic link.
Okay.
Yeah. And then my next note just says Kennedy is a dick.
True. Facts.
But basically, Kennedy they're back in a briefing about what to do about the surgery, and Kennedy's like, we're not going to have the surgery. And they were like, excuse me, what? And he was like, do you know how much information we can gain from this Goa'uld?
Right.
And General Hammond's like, how about shut the fuck up? And I was like,
This was the part I just put, I think I like General Hammond.
oh, my note says General Hammond is my queen. So like same. He was like, yeah. And he was like, I'm going to take this to my superiors. And General Hammond's like, cool. You know, I have like the cell phone number of the president. So like you.
Well, he has that red phone, which is
the fancy red phone. Yeah.
phone.
Yeah. He was like, you can fuck all the way off. And we will be doing the surgery if there is any chance of saving my man. Yeah. Mic drop.
Even if it's only a 10 to 12% chance, which is what they said it was. And I was like,
correct.
That is not great.
And then Teal'c is helping the surgeon by testing anesthesia on his Jaffa pouch to figure out what kinds of anesthesia will sedate the Goa'uld.
Such a good guy.
Right?
Ugh.
10 out of 10. So then we have a really emotional scene with Kowalski and O'Neill where Kowalski's like, I'm gonna die. And Jack's like, no, you're not. You're not allowed to die because I don't have feelings and then I'd have to feel things.
Right.
He doesn't say that, but he says that.
But that's what he means.
And Kowalski is like, listen, if I don't make it out of the surgery, cremate me so that there is no chance of this thing escaping and taking someone over. Like,
which makes sense.
I'm taking one for the team. Kill me and the bug.
Yeah.
And Jack, in a way that is so epitomizing of who Jack is as a character, is like, listen, I have to ask you something really, really important. If you die, can I have your stereo?
Yeah, like way to ruin a moment, but also like I know like you have to make it lighthearted in that type of moment or that type of friendship.
That's exactly like he's like, I'm starting to feel things, so now I'm gonna make a dumb joke because you can't ever see me feel things.
Right. I do like their friendship.
Yeah. And then we see Daniel and Sam talking again because scientists talk to each other.
She's so smart. Like I don't usually keep up well with what she's saying when she's explaining things because it's just such technical terms. I love that she's so smart though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then but we find out that if the surgery is successful, it's like a really big deal for Skara and Shari because they still would like to eventually maybe save them.
Right. And this is when I realized that I had completely forgotten about Shari already because I was so focused on Kowalski.
It's one of those things, and I find this oftentimes with shows that have like 40 main characters that there's only so many of them I can care about at one particular moment.
So true. So true.
Then the surgery happens and it is very gross, but Kowalski survives. And while Kowalski is in recovery,
I do want to talk about the actual surgery because first of all I felt like the doctor was a bomb squad. Yeah. And that it was so funny. They were talking and one of them, I think it was Kennedy, goes, that's not all of it. And then someone else is like, cover it. And I was just like, burn it. Like you could just get rid of it.
Well, but they can't because they have to study it. But you know, in this surgery, they killed the Goa'uld. And so Kennedy's like, well, you killed the only Goa'uld, so now I get to take Teal'c for testing. Ha ha ha, fuck you guys.
Yeah.
And Jack is with Kowalski in recovery, and they come to tell Jack that they're going to take Teal'c, and he's like, no, that's not going to happen. And Kowalski is like, hey, this man saved my life. If he is going to get taken, can I see him first? And they were like, duh, of course. So he comes and turns out the gold's not dead and Kowalski is still taking over. But like even more so at this point. And he attacks Kowalski. Or he attacks Teal'c, sorry.
And Teal'c, I wanted to say here I was watching it, and again, my mind wanders sometimes. And he reminds me, I feel like, of James Monroe Eagleheart. Eagleheart? Is that how you say his last name?
Eagleheart, yeah.
Eagleheart. And because he's like that kind, like big teddy bear type person. But he like, I don't know. Not like he's not as like flamboyant. But
I don't see that at all. I think he reminds me more of like Chris Jackson.
See, I don't
Chris Jackson played George Washington.
Right. I met him. Yeah. I don't know.
Like, it's like the big physical, like broodingness of it with the teddy bear in.
But I don't get, like, I know it's supposed to be like that, but I don't feel the broodingness. I feel like he's just this kind-hearted teddy bear.
He's massive, though.
Well, yeah, but still.
We have very different interpretations of this person.
We do, and I guess that's okay.
And then they continue to battle.
And this was another scene where I didn't understand the production quality because they did like karate chops and kicks and they were absolutely terrible. And I was like, they could have at least done stage fighting to make this look better than it did.
Yeah. But they go to the gate room. Kowalski because Kowalski had like kidnaps Sam and runs off with her and knocks her out in an elevator. And there's just like, it's like a very massive drawn out fight scene for not really any reason.
Right.
And then they get to the gate room and we got what truthfully, while graphically not as bad as you would think, is quite a fucking gruesome death.
Oh, yeah.
Because Teal'c holds Kowalski in place just as they finally get the gate to shut down. So when the gate disappears, everything that's like trapped in the gate dematerializes, which includes half of Kowalski's head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is, it's done in a way where you can tell that it's a bad thing and you can see that the back of his head is bloody, but like it's not done disgustingly.
No, it wasn't gory, which I did appreciate.
But like logically, like talking that out, I was like, that's fucking vicious.
Yeah. It's like putting your head under like a wood saw or something.
But like not even, it's like using a laser beam because it's like taking a laser to half of your head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was rough.
And then we get a moment where Jack is so Jack, and it made me really upset because Teal'c was like, I'm so sorry, like I know that was your friend, and Jack says, no, my friend died on the table. And that's the end of it.
Oh no, and it's sad.
But that's the moment when I was like, that's why I remember Kowalski, because he said that's the end of it, but it's not the end of it because it's the same way that we know how awful Jack feels about his son, despite the fact that he never talks about it. Like these deaths, his son and Kowalski are like the defining moments for him as a human and his motivation and everything. And so like, yeah, I was like, everything you need to know about Jack O'Neill and Richard Dean Anderson's portrayal of him is in that moment.
Yeah. I definitely could feel that. Like I felt him as O'Neill in that moment. And I also want to talk about the last shot of the episode again. They did the shot of him.
Oh, no. I have more because there's more that
Okay.
happens after this. Yeah, before we get to the last shot. Then we go to Daniel and Sam again, talking about everything that's happened.
Oh, yes.
And Sam is and Daniel is happy that Kowalski opened the gate, obviously. And Sam was like, bitch, why? And Daniel's like, because the only person who knew enough to know all those codes was Kowalski, because we also learn when Jack and General Hammond are shutting the gate down that only the ranking officers have those codes. Mm-hmm. So Kowalski couldn't have forced somebody in the room to do it for him. He had to do it himself, which means that Kowalski's mind was somewhere still inside of there. So that gives Daniel hope that Sharae and Skara's minds are still somewhere inside of their Goa'uld personalities. Then we go to my favorite scene where General Hammond is on the phone with the president and basically is like, here, bitch boy, and hands the president phone to Colonel Kennedy. And we find out Teal'c's on the team now. Ha ha ha. Fuck Yay. You, Kennedy. And then we go to this beautiful shot of the 4 members of SG-1 getting ready to go on a mission to the planet. Mm-hmm. But it's really beautiful because Teal'c walks out in army fatigues, like in military clothes. And General Hammond says something to him and he answers, and Jack's like, say sir. You gotta say sir. And he's like, no, sir.
I know, I loved it. So, I will say though, it was a beautiful scene, but it was also a beautiful scene at the end of the first episode. I don't know if I'd care if they do the same ending scene on every episode. Is this going to be recurring?
No. Okay. It's because in the first episode, it like gave us hope, but then we started the episode with being like, fuck you, Teal'c's not on the team. And so then it ends this way to be like, just kidding, for real this time.
Gotcha. And see, I'm okay with that. I was just going to say it will be overdone if they continue to do this, but
I'm not saying that they'll never do it again,
well, no.
but I don't, it's not going to be like
super frequent. Like
it's not going to be like, overdone, at least. And maybe it'll be overdone in season 1, but like it won't be forever like that.
Would you like to know my final thoughts on this episode?
I would love to know your final thoughts on this episode.
I don't know if this is a thing we're doing, but I've started writing down final thoughts at the end of each Stargate episode. Since
I love that. I love that.
So it turns out after episode 2, I am already invested. I realized this while they were operating on Kowalski, and I was like barely breathing because I was so zoned in to like paying attention. And I was watching with my aunt, and she started talking, and it was like brought me back because I was like, oh wait, I was not paying attention to anything else in the world. And then I had talked about how it was an interesting writing choice to have Kowalski such a big character, which we already talked about. But yeah, and so that was my thoughts because I'd already discussed the second one. But yeah, so I'm in it. I am ready for it.
There is absolutely no trivia that I found interesting on this episode. Excellent. Like there was trivia, but none of it was really that interesting. So
cool.
Except for that the one, and this is like interesting, but like only in a weird nerdy science way. So
I love it already.
The iris, the titanium iris, is stated to be 3 microns in front of the gate's event horizon. So basically there's 3 microns between what actually comes through the gate and the iris. For a sense of scale, the average human hair is about 40 microns in diameter.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's that close.
wow.
But a single atom is only about 1/2000th of a micron. So it is fucking minuscule distance between the iris and the gate horizon.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
Who would you like to punch?
Kennedy.
Obviously.
Zero questions.
No questions. He's a dick.
Yes, he was the worst. I did like that he looked like the dad from Modern Family. Other than that, I did not care for him.
I also hated him so much that I didn't bother giving you any guest
I noticed
facts about him.
Sorry. Well, I have a fact. He is not related to the dad from Modern Family because I did indeed look that up to make sure.
Yeah. And how about your MVP? Who's your favorite?
I put Kowalski.
I do love Kowalski. I think in this episode, it has to be General Hammond, just because
my backup.
I was so angry at Kennedy that when General Hammond was like, "Fuck you, bitch," I was like, "Thank you."
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. I was very pleased with him.
So, do you have any predictions for this episode?
I don't really know. They'll meet a new alien group.
Maybe. Yeah, this was a weird ending.
Group.
Like there was no cliffhangery bits to it.
No, I was like, at some point they're going to come across Shorey. I don't know if it'll be. I don't think it'll be next episode, but I don't know. I just don't really have enough to go on to make predictions.
Yeah, and that's true. This one was like in the last episode, obviously, like it ended with that moment of being with Kowalski's eyes. So you were like, oh shit, at least I know what's coming up. This one, like they're going to another planet.
Right.
We'll see.
Like this could have been the end of a movie.
Correct. I think the first episode, like technically 1, 2 as 1 as 2 and 3, like this was an arc that was like basically the exposition arc, and then whatever we start in episode 3 will be the next, like the real story. So it's hard to figure out what that's gonna be.
Yes, I need to know more before I can make real predictions. But I will sure try until then.
All right. Well, if you have predictions or thoughts, you can always send it to us on any of the social medias at Death and Aliens. And you can send things to me personally. I'm pretty popular. A really hot Asian guy from The Bachelor liked my comment on a post of his. That my socials are EMKAY_superstar.
And you can find me at CECloud13. And happy Sci-Fi Sunday.
Yeah. We will see you on Thursday for our second installment of Thriller Thursday. All right. Bye.